Earlier today, I decided to pay a visit to the library because my friend Josh yesterday, I was talking to him for a few minutes. He thought it would be cool if I did. So, my first book here I'm going to review is Volume 6 of the 2020 Star Wars run with Charles Soule. Yeah. And his work prior to this, I've read the Darth Vader 2017, and the Daredevil 20. The Vader and Daredevil 2017 runs. And the She-Hulk, I really couldn't get into with him because the art was a little bit off-putting, and much unlike the Disney show, I honestly prefer John Byrne's 1980s and Dan Slott's early to mid 2000s runs with her. And then Richard Meyer, for a time, when he was reviewing comics all the time, he opted to review the first issue, which is how I discovered the entire run. The front cover here with the green and the red, I noticed and also kind of feel like it references Dark Empire, because much like the Thrawn trilogy, which Dave Filoni is slowly adapting into the Mandoverse with Ahsoka Season 1, the Kai Patterson cut makes it a little more coherent. And the possibility of Mandalorian Season 4, or a movie with him, Ahsoka, and possibly even having young recast Luke, Han, and Leia. They could fight Thrawn, because Thrawn is the biggest baddie after Vader and Palpatine. But anyway, Dark Empire had Luke take his green lightsaber and swap the crystal out for a red lightsaber, and he was pretending to dress up like his dad, and Han and Leia had to save him from himself, much like how they and Vader saved him throughout the original 3 movies. So we open up to number 31 is basically a blurb talking about TLJ style fuel issues. To be fairly honest, I really don't like TLJ much, except in fan edits like Hubris did one called An Old Hope. And we have, in keeping with the whole fuel problem, we have Leia introducing Lobot, Holdo, Luke, Chewbacca, Lando, R2, and C-3PO, I think, are on the Millennium Falcon. And they're talking to this alien dude who looks like the 3 ones from The Simpsons. And Luke is worried about the yellow saber. Hang on, gotta skip a few pages. A lot of this is conversation. But what kind of made me interested in this one panel was that Lando is confessing to Holdo a bit about how he sold out Han Solo, and a lot of people look down on him. Because in real life, Billy D. Williams, he walked down the street sometimes and people gave him a hassle over that. And so I feel like Charles Soule probably watched interviews with him and might have even played Jedi Academy, where there's a level in which no, not Jedi Academy, Jedi Outcast. Yeah, Academy is the follow-up with Kyle Katarn's Apprentice. Anyway, the Outcast game, Kyle Katarn is talking to Lando, and Lando alludes to when he made the deal with Vader. So there you go. Hold on. Then is 32. The biggest thing I noticed was that there's an epic space duel fight with Luke and some robots, and then he's joined by Haldo and Lando. And it reminds me of the level in Polis Massa with Battlefront 2 2005, where you have the clones and droids, battle droids, or your rebels and stormtroopers, and they're in tanks and they're fighting each other, and the air on the planet isn't very breathable, so they all fight in the tanks, as you can see with the space helmet. And then he's going after a book, which is like the one that like the ones that Rey steals out of the tree, and she may or may not do anything with if Disney makes more movies with her, because Simon Kinberg insists that he's going to do a trilogy, which given the EU references, they could have her fight Yuzheng Vong instead of more Rebels and Empire over and over and over again. Oh, and his poor robot hand from Empire Strikes Back gets pretty damaged. Yeah, or he's screaming no. Yeah, this is 30. Pulled over into 33. It gets to the point where, the human, the synthetic flesh gets ripped off, because in the rescue with Jabba's sail barge, when they grab Han, he gets shot in the hand, and he wears the black glove when he goes to see Yoda, because the synthetic flesh starts to rot, which is why when he's on the island in the newer movies, he's kind of ditched the glove and just stuck with the robot hand like you see there. And we go back to the surgery at the end of Empire Strikes Back, and he sees that the yellow lightsaber, which he got from the Grand Inquisitor's tomb as a trap set by Vader, is starting to fall apart. And poring over the 34, he's trying to figure out how the crystals work, because a lot of people have talked about how Kenobi left a journal in the house in episode 4 for him to build the lightsaber in the year between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And you have your orange, yellow, and it's either orange or red, yellow and green, and then he has a bit of a heart-to-heart with R2-D2 over it. And he reassures Leia. And then he goes to a Clone Wars era planet called Christophsis, which in the movie, the 2008 movie, they introduce Ahsoka to Anakin. And Obi-Wan and... Yeah, he and Obi-Wan, Anakin and Obi-Wan are trying to rescue the planet from the Separatists. So... if you 20-something years later, Luke is running around on the same planet and trying to figure out a crystal. He goes to a bar owned by an alien dude who looks like Chinese tin, and he has some space sushi, which is funny because they're always talking about, don't eat gas station sushi. And he gets surprised by a green-haired lady who introduces herself as Greta, but probably not like Greta Thunberg. And they have another heart-to-heart, and she takes him for a ride. Oh yeah, there's a Rogue One reference. That's the planet that the Death Star blows up as a test before Alderaan. Alderaan was more official, because there's a scene where Director Krennic is going to visit Vader on this castle, in his castle on Mustafar instead of Vegan, and he talks about the cover story that the news gave to cover up the Death Star explosion, because no one takes the Death Star explosion seriously until Alderaan. And then they go looking for a dude who can take a look at the yellow saber, but they get ambushed by a big giant lizard thing. It goes on for a little while until a dude pops up to rescue them. And then we move on to 35, where they're continuing to talk, and the dude starts tinkering with the yellow saber. And then he explains in great detail the different elements of a lightsaber, kind of like a guidebook I had when I was a kid for the Phantom Menace, where it explained the crystal. And then somewhere around the top of the saber is usually a little thing that you can adjust the blade with, because Yoda had a Shoto in the prequels, which in some of the later 90s novels and comics, Luke had a little red one to fight off a lady named Lumaya who had a lightsaber whip. And his wife had I think a blue or white one. And there you go. Then he's given a red crystal, which he opts to basically bleed, much like how Vader and Ahsoka and some of the other stuff, they try to bleed the red light. Yeah, the red. They bleed different colors, and he winds up in a KOTOR era temple where this lady is not really big on him. And then he morphs over, and then another test. He's given a clear crystal, which upon testing he runs into Yoda. And so, given that it's Yoda, and this is during the year between Empire and Jedi, Return of the Jedi, he decides to ask Yoda why it is that he hasn't dealt with him. And so, it reminds me of how my dad and I were showing my other brother Garrett when he was about 7 or 8, the first 3 movies. And then my mom showed him the prequels, about how Luke had a do-it-yourself, self-taught process with what amounted to mail correspondence until he was prepared to go to Jabba's palace. And in that process, they had a story called Shadows of the Empire, where a dude named Dash Rendar was basically a potential replacement for Han Solo. Had to protect Luke from Prince Xizor, his thugs that were trying to kill him, and it aggravated Darth Vader because Darth Vader wanted Luke to help him topple Palpatine. And so he was staying in Kenobi's house and modeling his saber that he ended up using with the green crystal. He modeled it after Kenobi's because Lucas introduced the idea that the Master and Apprentice have the same handle style. Anakin didn't follow that, but Luke was trying, so there you go. And we keep with back and forth between her, the Greta girl, who I forgot to mention a minute ago. I feel like kind of poking at him a little bit, because I think she might have a little bit of, not necessarily a serious crush, but like a little bit of a crush, because the thing that Disney, well, the 90s EU did a little bit more that Disney hasn't really committed to, is giving Luke a love interest, which I genuinely believe could be possible with Amy Adams if she plays Mara Jade in Starfighter next year. And Ryan Gosling could have been another relative that Luke might have met along the way. Maybe drawing a little bit from Cade Skywalker. And the center of the Starfighter movie is Ryan Gosling protecting a kid that could be Luke's, so it would be interesting. Then we see Kenobi's ghost, and reminded me of my uncle was telling me one time that he was hoping Lucas would have kept the scene. It's deleted since, but Lucas had a scene where Yoda confessed to Luke that Kenobi had to lie to him in episode 4 about Vader and Anakin being the same guy. And that's why, as a trade-off, they had Luke sit on the log with Kenobi's ghost and have the discussion. And then tying back to the cover, you have the angel and demon. Angel being the green crystal and red being the demon. And then 36, I really didn't have a whole lot to cover in this one, except Leia has a briefing, and it's hang on. I went too far. Hold on, let me go back. Yeah, it's not strictly interrupted by, but kind of attended by a woman named Shower Bay, who in the sequel era is Poe Dameron's mom. And her backstory, fully conveyed in the Shattered Empire comic miniseries, was for a time, while she was promoting her Snow White live-action remake, someone that Rachel Zegler was interested in playing if they did a 30-year fill-in gap movie between Return of the Jedi and the sequels. And going forward a little bit, is a big epic space battle, but the biggest thing I want to highlight in it is that there's a scene where Lando is flying with Neem Nub, which is a foreshadowing of the later part of Return of the Jedi, where they're going to Endor. And what's funny about this is that you have the circular radar dish in all three movies up until the Battle of Endor, where Lando accidentally hits the radar dish on the Death Star. Death Star 2, when he hits the when they're going through and going to bomb it, he accidentally rams into the thing and then breaks the radar dish. But Han, in a few scenes before that, was talking about, taking care of the ship and being responsible, and then they never ever have him address the loss of the circular radar dish, because in the newer movies it's a square. So yeah, and that's pretty much it.